Not many men who stumble upon the bloody wreckage of a drug deal gone sideways would take it upon themselves to investigate the scene. But Llewellyn Moss is not like most men. He survived the jungles of Vietnam. He's smart, resourceful, and skilled. He's never backed down from a threat and never will.
Decided to make you a special project of mine. You ain't gonna have to come look for me at all.
Even his wife, Carla Jean, believes in her husband's invulnerability.
He can take all comers.
A large portion of No Country for Old Men is a test of Carla Jean's statement. Can Llewellyn Moss take all comers? The setup of the story is familiar. The Mexican gangsters and their bosses are morally bankrupt, they're greedy, they're violent. Llewellyn is the everyman who has our sympathy. He probably grew up on a humble ranch, got drafted, fought honorably, and then worked a trade to support his kind, innocent wife. Even though Llewellyn provokes fate by taking the blood money, we want him to escape the maze and begin a new life with Carla Jean on the other side. But there's an invader in this story, a force not motivated by money or power. Anton Chigurh is pure destruction in human form. He cannot be reasoned with, he cannot be restrained. If you get in his way, the calculus is very simple. Win or die. No Country is built around a trinity: Moss, Chigurh, and Sheriff Ed Tom Bell. Throughout the movie, we see countless examples of doubling, characters doing the same task, sometimes the same way, other times different. But for a brief amount of time, these vastly different men orbit the same sun. But Ed Tom orbits from farther away than the other two. He has very little impact, if any, on the war to capture the briefcase. As bullets fly and the body count grows, Ed Tom is relegated to inspecting the aftermath. His main objective is saving Llewellyn, mostly for the sake of Carla Jean, but he is always a day late and a dollar short, and he knows it. Much can be said, and has been, about No Country's chess match. From the mighty Rio Grande to motels with only free HBO to offer, every move and countermove by Chigurh and Moss is compelling, whether it be buying tent poles or shower curtain executions. But for many viewers, the end of their duel is unsatisfying. The alluring woman by the pool tells Moss, "Nobody ever sees what's coming." Then the screen fades to black, and Moss is killed. Not in a final shootout at high noon with Chigurh, but in an off-screen hit by the Mexicans. Like Sheriff Bell, we're left to stare at Moss's lifeless corpse thinking, is that really it? Ed Tom is left to wrestle with that question in the film's final handful of scenes, and it results in my favorite ending of the 21st century. Ed Tom is not naive about the uncertainties in life. He tries to tell Carla Jean that her husband's survival is not a foregone conclusion, using the example of Charlie Walzer's disastrous attempt to kill one of his steers.
The point being that even in the contest between man and steer, the issue is not certain.
But the nihilistic brutality of Chigurh is something different. Random accidents happen, but how do you contend with a world where psychopathic murderers can kill innocents without hesitation and then just vanish into thin air without punishment? His cousin Ellis, well experienced in the unfairness of life, tells Ed Tom that chaos and injustice are hardly new. Even the relatives saw it in the years Ed Tom now romanticizes. And it's foolish to believe that the world will ever live up to your standards of morality and decency. The world constantly evolves. There's nothing one man can do to change that reality. Ellis tells his cousin the truth, but there is not much comfort in the truth. This brings us to the famous closing monologue of No Country, delivered to perfection by Tommy Lee Jones. Now retired, Ed Tom tells his wife about two dreams that both include his father. The first dream is light on detail. His father gives him money, and he loses it. If anything, it shows that Ed Tom is still thinking about Llewellyn's death. The second dream is more reflective of Bell's state of mind. He and his father are back in older times, and they're riding through a mountain pass on a cold night. And his father rides past him, intending to start a fire on that cold, dark night.
I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there.
People have different interpretations of the dream, but I think most of us have the same image in our minds of his father, Think of the classic Western. There's lawlessness and violence, just like No Country, but there's always a character you know will make things right, or dispense justice at least. They're usually not your archetypal hero, but they have a conscience and fight for the little guy. Ethan in The Searchers, Shane in Shane. We all know this character. With courage and ingenuity, they stand up to the worst of the world, regardless of the odds they face. That's how Ed Tom sees his father. It's how a lot of people see their father. I think that's why it strikes a chord with so many people. And he yearns for the return of his guidance in a world he can no longer understand. The film's final line is not a hopeful one in my opinion. And then I woke up, he tells his wife. My longing for comfort and guidance cannot be realized because my father is gone. He only exists in my dreams. I may be older than he ever was, but I don't have the strength and wisdom to contend with my mortality and the evil of others alone. Ed Tom's dream speaks to feelings we will all have at some point: fear of the future and an inability to understand the past. And when there's no guide to help us navigate these feelings, a sense of hopelessness can soon follow. Now, No Country for Old Men does not tell the viewer that everything is going to be okay in the end, so just put on a smile and be optimistic. What the story does demonstrate is that even the most evil of men are at the mercy of fate and misfortune. Shigura is just another player in the game despite his misguided belief that he's above it. A reckless driver proves that in a way that's undeniable, but in a way that's what Carla Jean courageously tries to tell him by disconnecting his choices from the coin.
Colette.
The coin don't have no say. It's just you.
If there is a lesson to be taken and applied from the story, I think it actually does come from Carla Jean's encounter with Shigura. Ed Tom at least has his wife at the end. Carla Jean walks back into her home with nobody. Her husband is dead, her mother is dead, there is no one to help her plan for the future, and no one to calm her grief. But when she's threatened with death by a psychopathic murderer, she doesn't try to negotiate with him like Carson Wells, which is probably what I would do, to be fair. She's terrified, but she chooses to put her foot down and speak truthfully and courageously instead of allowing this man to escape responsibility for his choices. In a different movie, maybe Sheriff Tom Bell barges through the door and manages to save Carla Jean moments before Shigura pulls the trigger. But he's not John Wayne, and this is not the romantic Wild West. So the most innocent character in the story is murdered in cold blood. An honorable end, but an end nonetheless. The year after No Country's release, another character deciding life and death with a coin flip would declare,
You thought we could be decent men in an indecent time! But you were wrong. The world is cruel.
As the ticking clock in Ed Tom's home evolves into the film's only piece of music, our old sheriff is left to think. Maybe my life's work was a mistake. Maybe it was foolish to try and bring order to an inherently disordered world. And that's the question I take from No Country for Old Men. Is it better to be Carla Jean and be killed for resisting fatalism and disorder represented by her killer? Or do you accept the rule and allow self-interest and self-preservation to guide you through the mountains? Perhaps Ed Tom's father would argue for the former, but he's rode on by. Our protagonist will have to find the answers he's looking for somewhere in the very strange world he, and all of us, call home.